Hey everybody, Paul Wilcox here, and my business partner Chris Roberts from Sterling Rhino Capital. Sitting here chilling in my backyard on a beautiful summer day. But you came here to find out how Chris made $1 million on one of his first commercial real estate deals. So I want to hear this story. I hope you do too. So the big question is, Chris, I know you didn't start out a millionaire,
No.
but how did you make $1 million on one deal?
Yeah. Well, that's a really good question. I think people throw that around a lot. Like, oh, you can make millions, you can get rich. Nothing is quick, nothing is easy and simple, right? But it did start with humble beginnings. I had that sort of tenacity about me that wanted to succeed. Like I had this vision of building something greater than myself, making money. Creating independence, financial freedom. I used to hear that stuff all the time. So I started out by, after being on my own at a young age and hustling and working hard and multiple jobs, started just educating myself. And I bought a couple of little pieces of land, eventually a couple single families, and then that was kind of it. I just had a couple little things, but didn't have any wealth, didn't have a ton of money. It was really when I got into multifamily real estate is where the wealth started to be created, right? And it was one particular deal. Actually, the first deal is where I made $1 million. So you want to hear about that?
Yeah.
All right.
So I know about this deal because I was partners with Chris on it. And trust me when I tell you, this deal was so crazy that Chris is writing a book on it, on just this one deal. But why don't you tell us the quick story of Tristan Townhomes?
Yeah, so not easy to get into multifamily as a syndicator when you don't know much about it, right? So I started to educate myself, learn. Found an opportunity that was a little rough around the edges. Matter of fact, a lot of people said, why are you buying this? Why are you hanging in there? Why are you dealing with such a difficult seller? And it boiled down to just, believing that I could make it happen. I followed the data. I followed the numbers. So we buy this property. $3.875 million is what we paid for it. After 11 months of negotiating, it was really difficult, really rough neighborhood, right? A more challenging tenant base for all kinds of reasons. A very difficult seller. Owner operator, that had its own challenges, right?
Chris, one of the reasons I think we got this property is because nobody else wanted this property.
Oh, there's no doubt. Yeah, there's no doubt. As a matter of fact,
Hey, do what you got to do. If you're going to get into this real estate and you want to get your first deal, you will do whatever you have to do. Doesn't matter if you can figure out a way to buy an apartment complex and make money and everybody else is walking away, that's probably the deal that you should go in on.
yeah, it's a good sign. And you also have to know that, sometimes it's okay to walk away as well. Some of the best deals are the ones you walk away from because you save yourself from making a mistake. I was fortunate to place people around me, a really good team of people that helped with the due diligence and the process of underwriting and going through all the challenges, right? So we found this property off market and I just didn't give up. I kept fighting. I kept going about it with the owners. I kept helping them with their financial documents and helping them to figure out how to help me put something in place that would make sense for the banks. And so we went through this whole process over 11 months and eventually got to the finish line. Here's why I made $1 million on this property. One, we bought it right. Okay, we negotiated for 11 months on this property. It was an owner operator, so we were able to work directly with the owner at some point along the process. Usually you're dealing with brokers, right? But we got to a point where the brokers kind of were throwing their hands up. They were frustrated with the sellers. And I simply said to them, do you think the sellers would talk to me? And once we connected and got on the same page and started treating each other like human beings and not just numbers, we came to some commonality. So after getting through this process months and months, we locked the deal down. So the key was buying it right. That was number one. The second thing was we had a really good plan for renovations. We spent probably $500,000 on renovating the property. So we bought it right. We had a good renovation budget to bring up the value of the asset, which is in a multifamily complex, right? Apartments, you're renovating the interiors, the exteriors, and you're trying to bring the rents up so that you can bring the value of the property up. We knew ahead of time that we had to hit a certain number within, say, 5 years, and that number was around $7.5 million. We knew we had to bring the value of the property up to about $7.5 million from 3.8 in order to return what we promised to our investors, right? But several factors came into play. One, we were able to raise the rents quite a bit higher because the market started growing a lot with us.
And that's a key point. The location. This market, right outside of Savannah, Georgia, was hot.
Oh, yeah.
It was growing.
Yep.
So even though the property was rough, we saw the growth in the market, and Savannah was exploding. So, you know what it is? Real estate, it's all about location. We bought in a great location, and that was also a big.
Oh, 100%. You make your money going into the deal, right? Location, and how you buy the deal. right? So we have this pro forma, this plan we put together, and we thought, man, if we can get the value of the property based on the amount of money we can raise rents, the amount of efficiencies we can create by lowering expenses, we'll hit a certain number and our investors will be excited, right? We thought we might hit, let's say, a 2 times equity multiple, 2.0, right? So you put 100,000 in, we might get you another 100,000 in profit over a 5 to 6 year period, right? So we were all excited about that. Well, as we got into the property, started realizing the market and how aggressive things were in the market and how everything was growing and everyone's moving to the south, we realized that we're actually going to hit that a lot quicker. But it got even better. Because as we raised rents and started creating more efficiencies in the operating, we started lowering expenses and things of that sort. The profits and the increase in value went through the roof. I mean, we bought this property for $3.875 million. We sold it 18 months later for just under $12 million, right? And that was based on rental increases, based on efficiencies in lowering the operating expenses, and a little bit of help from the market, right? Obviously, the market's been hot for a while, and we bought it right. I mean, these guys were asking $5.5 million initially for this property. We negotiated down to $3.875 in a time where the market was pretty hot, right?
So that's just under $4 million purchase price. 18 months later, sold for just under 12. That's 3 times the value in 18 months.
Right.
That's powerful.
It's really powerful. And so when you talk in terms of how you can make money in multifamily real estate, because obviously I made a nice profit, right? But it was never about me. I knew that I had a team, I had a lot of investors alongside, and my ultimate goal was to maximize the returns for them, which is why we sold so fast. I knew that if we sold now, right, and got out of the market, fortunate we did, interest rates are climbing a little, making it a little more challenging for sellers now, we could give them that 3 times equity multiple. So folks that thought they might get, let's say, a 20 to 25% annual return, which is really high, by the way, in this space, but that's kind of what we thought we could hit with these numbers. They ended up getting just north of 100% annual returns in this deal, which is staggering. In full disclosure, that's not normal. We are not financial advisors. We do not promise any of this stuff. We actually were pretty conservative in our approach, but offering 3 times to 4 times what we promised based on buying it right, the location, a little bit of help from the market and the efficiencies we put in play, just staggering. And the reason I highlight that is that's the power of multifamily investing, right? Because real estate generally goes up, commercial particularly based on rents historically going up. I mean, if you look at a 100-year average, rental increases are like 8.5% over, no, I'm not, sorry, 130-year average. Rental increases are like 8.5%. Well, the value of these things is based on the amount of money they produce, right?
They're businesses.
Yeah, so they're businesses, business plans and all that, right? So I think the power of it, why I highlight that is, sure, I made I think it was $1.2 million on this deal. Phenomenal. But the investors that came in along the way, there was one person in particular that put $300,000 in this deal. She made $550,000 profit on her 300 in 18 months. You cannot find that anywhere.
These
right?
returns are not guaranteed. However, this is what's possible when you get involved. If they didn't take the chance with us in the beginning and realize the value of multifamily real estate, they never would have been there to hit the home run, right? They never would have been in the ball game.
100%.
But once you get in, there are opportunities, maybe not to make 100% annual return on your money, but 20, 30, 40% plus is all possible. Because Chris, we sold another deal and that was a 46% average return.
Absolutely.
And we've got an opportunity out right now that we can talk about later where we are projecting returns up in that range. So it's possible. The key is educating yourself enough so you feel comfortable to get in the ball game. So then you can give us a chance to hit the home run while you're on second base.
Yeah, 100%. And here's the thing. So obviously you have a sponsorship group, a team of people like us that actually run these deals for you. We get a piece of the profit as a result, right? And then you get your annual returns, your return, kind of like you have a money manager in the stock market. The difference is these returns tend to be much greater statistically because it's a tangible asset. So you get like this depreciation, cash flow, mailbox money, and then you get the equity at the end. And then we get fees for managing the asset, right? Or a piece of the equity at the end. In this case, because I negotiated the whole deal over almost a 12-month period, and I owned most of the deal. It was the first deal we did. I owned a greater percentage of that deal. And so while the investors made staggering lifetime changing returns, I also made a lot of money, and everyone was ecstatic about all of it, right? It worked out for everyone. So while your average returns might be quite a bit lower than that, let's say they're anywhere from 15 to 20% annual, it's still staggering compared to what you get anywhere else, right? And way less stress. So let's talk quickly about passive versus active, right? I'm an active investor because I invest in all our own deals, right, that we do. And then I also help manage the process. So we're a team, we're active. But then there's the passive side. So folks that don't have any desire to manage a property or go through all the due diligence, the time, the stress, the sleepless nights, whatever it may be, right, which is associated with real estate sometimes, they can put their money in as a passive investor and sleep well at night knowing that that money's working while they sleep, and that cash flow eventually comes along. If you have a value add deal like these, the cash flow started like 9 to 12 months. If you're doing new construction, it can take longer. It can take 2 to 3 years before cash flow starts. But the real play in real estate is equity and depreciation. It's not always about cash flow, because most of us are not living off of this cash flow, off this investments that we put in. It's the equity at the end. I mean, think about it. That person who invested $300,000, for example, and that's quite a bit higher than, let's say, an average, but she had a little bit of cash flow that was generated off that. But when she got her $550,000 at the end, that was life changing.
Well, here's
it
what's
wasn't
key.
the cash flow.
Here's what's key is now the cash flow off of 300 might not be meaningful, but the cash flow off of 850, that's meaningful.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
18 months later,
Yeah.
your cash flow off of that, of what your investment now is worth, is
Yep.
huge.
Yep. So that, I think that's part of it. Is it sounds great. Like, how did I make $1 million, or how can you make $1 million, and all of that. There's obviously a lot of details behind that, but the reality is that it wouldn't be possible without real estate, commercial real estate particularly, because single families take a really long time, right, to grow wealth. Commercial real estate, even as a passive investor, you can grow wealth pretty quickly. And we've created actually retirement calculators that illustrate this. So whether you're like say a working class person making $50,000 a year, or you're a high level executive making hundreds of thousands, these calculators can show you. And if you go to the website, you'll see there's actually a calculator to you put your numbers into to see, well, how long would it take me to make $1 million or something, or 2 million or $500,000. And here's why this is important. When you work the calculator, you can see how much money would I need to replace my current income to give me sort of a financial freedom number, let's say. And if that number's $60,000 a year, well, then you can put those numbers into the calculator and figure out, well, how much per year would I need to invest to actually get to that number at some point? Because as Paul just stated, the really important part is once you create a little wealth, a nice big chunk of equity, and then that gets invested, that's where that cash flow replaces your current income and just keeps being reinvested. And eventually you're living off the income that's passive while your equity continues growing. And that is the key to wealth.
Chris, I watched how hard you worked on that deal. I've got to say that every penny you made was well deserved. It took a lot of struggle. It took commitment to close that deal and to run that property. And I was right alongside you on that property the whole way. However, most people don't have that kind of time. They don't have the expertise. They don't know how to get the debt. They don't know how to find the property. They don't want to deal with renovations. They don't want to be a landlord. So how can the guy who's got a job, the girl who's got a job, the teacher, they want to get involved in these profitable deals with us, but they don't want to be a landlord? How does the everyday person who does not want to be a real estate expert, how do they get involved in these deals with us?
That's a great question. And I think, first of all, you have to identify what it is you want in life. Like, not everybody wants to make $1 million or be rich or whatever, and that's perfectly fine, right? But most people want more time. Most people want to spend more time with their family. Most people want some sort of freedom from the corporate grind, right? Or whatever it is. And so if you can first identify that in you, what is that I want? When do I want to achieve that? And then say, okay, well, what is a number that would help me achieve that? Maybe it's $50,000 a year. Maybe it's only $20,000 a year. But that extra money could pay for your medication when you get older, right? It could pay for maybe a health issue that might come up, or just give you a little subsidy to Social Security. So it doesn't have to be millions, right? It could be a small amount of money. But I think the first thing is identifying that. When you figure that out, then you sit down and you put a plan. Like for us, like I said, we put these calculators together. We have YouTube channel, right? We have Create Your Fortune podcast. There's all this material, hundreds of videos on YouTube and all this stuff. You go there first and start to identify what it means to be a passive investor. Okay, so if you identify a number, let's say it's 20,000 a year, and you go to the website and you download the calculator and you go in and say, well, how do I create a, let's just say $1,500 a month passive cash flow? You start playing with the numbers a little, and you feel confident enough. Man, I like this. This works. I don't want to be in the stock market. I want to learn how to own real estate alongside guys like us or whatever. Okay, cool. Well, then you go in and start learning more about what that looks like. And really, it's just watching some of our YouTube videos. There's tons of them. It's listening to the Create Your Fortune podcast. If you're not a YouTube person and maybe you just want to binge while you're at the gym, anywhere from 3 to 12-minute videos, audio. Some are like 30 minutes, but we deep dive into all of this stuff, right? It's all free. There's no, like, we're not charging for anything. It's for education.
And no obligation.
Yeah, there's no obligations at all. It's just you're learning, right? That's what I did. I wanted something greater. I didn't know what that was. It wasn't like I said I want to be a multimillionaire. I didn't care. I was like, man, it's the corporate grind. There's got to be something better kind of mindset. So I started learning. I started watching YouTube videos. I started listening, reading blogs. I did all these things. So you go through that process, and once you feel confident and there's enough material, gosh, we produce tons of it, where you'll probably feel pretty confident at that point, like you're in the know, then you take the next steps. The next steps are, okay, I want to get into an offering. Well, we have live offerings now. So you go to the website, you look, you see it's for you. It's the kind of deal you want to get into. And then you go through these subscription agreements. So you have to review some legal documents after you review the actual offering. Like right now we have a fund, right? Equity Multiple Fund 1. You go in there, you educate yourself. You're like, I like this, 6 properties in one fund, beautiful new construction. Boom. You review the legal documents. You're cool with it. You agree with it. Maybe have your attorney review it if you want, your financial advisor. And then you start e-signing through. Now you're ready to wire your funds and you're a passive investor.
And one step further, if you're still not comfortable, you can actually get on the phone with Chris or myself. We routinely talk to investors for sometimes up to an hour because we love educating people about this. Because what we find is, I don't even need to sell you on this. If you do your own research and you look into this, you will come to your own conclusion just like we did, right?
Oh, 100%.
But we can talk you through that in a one-on-one personal phone call. We do it all the time. Our goal is to teach people about this. People think they're entitled to their 6 or 8%, and they're not allowed any more than that, right? That's what Wall Street will have you think.
Yeah.
And we're here to say, and we've done it. You can go on our website, you can read the testimonials, you can listen to them, that we can consistently in commercial real estate beat those kinds of returns that you get in the stock market.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. And I want to further the passive cash flow thing by saying, like today I'm passively invested now in like over 3,500 doors, right? We own thousands of them ourselves with new construction and everything going on. I take my money and reinvest it, right? And so like if you just take the 1.2 million or whatever and it was reinvested, it's like $60,000 to $70,000 or more in passive cash flow just from reinvesting that money. And because I live below my means, I'm not a fancy person. Like I don't drive Ferraris and stuff like that. It just keeps growing, right? And then you can do really cool stuff. Like you can do more charity work. Like you can give back. You can help people. You can give information away instead of charging for it, right? Because you want to help people. Like you want to have fun in this space. You want to see the smiles on people's faces when you send that distribution check out. You're like, hey, we sold it like a 3 times equity multiple or whatever, and you just made $500,000. So I think the key is that if you get in early, right? So you don't wait anymore. You just educate yourself and then get in. You'll watch over a 5, 10, 15, 20-year period how that curve starts to climb exponentially, and now your money starts creating more money. And if you reinvest the cash flow, it gets even better, right? So don't be afraid. Just take a little bit of time to educate yourself. This is the travesty in this business. The travesty is, not even in this business, actually in life, I'd say, is we spend a lot of time on TV and going out and, let's say, partying and having fun with friends and doing all these things that we think are really important. And we spend very little time on our health, our mindset, our financial foundation. Most people just don't even take time to watch YouTube videos on how to invest in multifamily, right? All they know is the lazy way, which is, oh, my employer told me to put some money in the stock market,
right,
and now I'm going to sit here for 25 years and realize that I actually am not financially free and I have no wealth.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
Here, money manager. Here's all my hard-earned money. And 10 years later, you're like, wait, I only made 3% per year? You do not have to be one of those people. You do not. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah.
Right? You can invest alongside us. You are essentially a partner with us on these deals, right? We're not your money manager. We are not financial advisors, right? And you can come alongside with us, be an owner in these large commercial apartment buildings, and watch with us as we all grow our money together, right? It's just Chris and I, we do all the work. So there's really nothing for you to do except watch your wealth grow.
You know what's crazy is, so there's two parts to this. There's the equity and the cash flow. Well, after investing in over 3,500 doors and actually converting my own IRA money, right, into a vehicle that I could invest in multifamily with, because I just got tired of watching my money not grow, all of that money created a 6-figure passive cash flow income, right? And so, full disclosure, it's like I'm not guaranteeing you the same results. I'm just telling you that I was an average guy. I grew up very humble beginnings. I stood in food lines as a kid, right? I was on my own at the age of 15 years old. I didn't graduate high school. I had to go back and finish, right? And I educated myself through things like YouTube, reading hundreds and hundreds of books, and being tenacious and outworking people around me. I was not a rocket scientist. I was the furthest thing from it. Actually, it's funny. We had an investor that's an actual rocket scientist, and we had a good laugh because I said, I never thought in my lifetime I'd actually meet a rocket scientist. And he didn't even have the wealth that I had generated, right? And he went through all these levels of college and worked for NASA and did all these things. And now he's a passive investor, right? And he tells me that's where he's really starting to create his wealth. So I think whether you're a blue collar, a working class person, or you have lots of net worth, a surgeon, or who knows what, right? It's for everybody. And I think if you really want to create financial freedom or true wealth and diversify and have cash flow in addition to money working for you as far as equity, you got to get into real estate. You can start with single families, but if you really want to create wealth, it's that commercial multifamily real estate, at least in my opinion, and we're living it. We're living it, right, Paul?
We are.
So I would encourage you to continue the educational process, right? Maybe you're not ready quite yet. We've had people 2-3 years later reach out and say, man, I was watching all your Facebook stuff and I'm ready. Like, man, I love this stuff. Or a certain blog post just resonated with me, or a YouTube video or whatever. Make sure that you subscribe to the Create Your Fortune podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, click the links below. We've got all kinds of content, right? We're going to have contests coming up. We've got live offerings at sterlingrhinocapital.com. You just click the invest now and you can actually see the offering. See if it's something you might be interested in. If you're not, maybe you will down the road, or maybe you share it with a friend, somebody who's interested, and they've been talking to you about, man, I'm tired of the stock market roller coaster. I'm looking for another way. I always wanted to get into real estate. You've got to educate yourself, because that's where you're going to build your comfort level. Right?
The education is a huge part of this, and
Yeah.
we highly encourage that. So when you're done watching this video, the very next thing I need you to do is hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to this channel, because you're going to start getting videos from us that give you information like this that will inspire you to partner with us. I'm telling you, the inspiration will come. Chris and I have so much of it to give, and we want people to feel what we're feeling. It's a very exciting investment class to be involved in, and you can literally be partners with us. So subscribe to this channel, please. Hit that thumbs up like button if you can. It really helps us out, helps us get the word out about this. And Create Your Fortune podcast. Check us out on there. Lots of information, educational content. Chris, anything else?
No,
Website?
that's great. We just appreciate you taking the time to listen. And here's the thing. Even if you're just looking for a little inspiration, trying to figure out another way, this is great information for you. And maybe you're not ready. That's all right. But I would just encourage you to continue down that knowledge path, that education path. And you'll find that after a few years, even if you're not ready, you're going to be inspired, because you realize it's the greatest vehicle on earth for creating wealth. If you look at any of the top wealthy people out there, you dig into their finances, it's real estate.
It's real estate.
It's real estate, 100%. So,
And I encourage you, if you're lacking that inspiration, get on the phone with Chris or myself. And most likely when you're done that phone call, you'll be just excited as we are.
yeah, thanks everybody for stopping by.
Appreciate it.